You're watching Rules of the Game on Rider Nation Station, brought to you by Minster Bank, Plus One Professionals, Albert Sporting Goods, American Legion Post 323, Fowler's TV, Eagles Lodge 767, Speckman Automotive, Auglaze Audiology, Rabel's Auto Service, American Manufacturing Solutions, VFW 9289, Auglaze Equipment Rental, Guarneri's Pizzeria, Vogel's Bake Shop, Schaff Auto Sales, Miller Funeral Homes, and Speed's Chiropractic and Wellness Center.
Hello and welcome to Rules of the Game with Mark Cisco. I'm your host, Zach Farrell. Mark, we're here at week 2. Thank you for joining me again.
It's always a pleasure, Zach.
Mark, we've got lots of clips to get through here, and we're going to go through them kind of all here at one time. So let's jump right into it. First play of the game, first clip that we want to look at was the pre-snap mechanics by the line judge at the bottom of the screen. So you see he sort of points backwards. They also called a legal man downfield, so we have a couple different things to look at here.
A lot of things going on there. Well, as far as the pre-snap initial position, we call it the IP. Players, were lined up on this hash close to us. He's supposed to come off the sideline, and what he's doing is punching the nearest receiver back off the line of scrimmage. Standard signal, not a problem there. And then we've got what they flag as ineligible downfield. But was he really? The question is, where did we snap it from? And was he downfield? If we could go back to the previous slide.
And this is just a different look, a different
view that
from
one's not
from the end zone.
I'm looking for, but, he went down and downfield. Was he downfield, though? Maybe not, depending on where the ball was snapped from and where he was at the time the pass was released. So We're snapping it on, looks like the 27-yard line. And we're gonna probably, what's the tackle out here, if I remember right. So let's see where he comes from.
Right, it's an attempted screen by London.
So we're come, ball's gone. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Was he? You get an expanded 2-yard zone there. So that's a little nitpicky in my mind.
But I thought when I was rewatching it that it was too close to call.
Right.
St. Mary's runs a lot of screens. I wouldn't like that if it was called on us.
Right. So when in doubt, it's not.
Fortunately, it wasn't a big play for London, so it didn't take anything back necessarily. But, just interesting. Second clip here, we have more pre-snap mechanics.
Okay.
No penalty called or anything, but some interesting signals down here by the bottom judge, and just wanted to get your opinion. He pushes his hands out like this at the...
Well, I don't know what he was doing there. It looked like he raised the hand up for a second, and maybe he was signaling 4 on the line of scrimmage, but there was 4, and then the other guy backed off, so now we only have 3, which is the guard tackle and the wideout. So initially, one of the splits or one of the slot people stood up on the line, and that's when he made that decision to go up, and then he stepped back.
Okay, so that's not necessarily
No, it was more of a hand up saying, I got 4 on my side,
okay,
and you ought to have 2 over there, although the rules state that you can play with only 5 on the line of scrimmage so long as you don't have more than 4 in the backfield.
Okay. Next clip then was a clip. That was called.
Interesting. Okay.
Called on St. Mary's on the punt return.
You don't often see a clipping call anymore.
Well, I take that back. It was probably blocking the back. So it was right down there at the bottom of the screen on that view.
Okay. Okay. Probably was a. Well, maybe not. If it's right there.
And I thought
probably in the corner.
Probably down there in the corner. Right.
That's the one you're looking at. That probably, from what we could see there, yes, that's a good call right there. The two guys on it.
Are they looking at where the defender or the blocker's head's position is?
Not necessarily, no, because that really has no bearing on. We're going to look at the initial contact. That's where what we're looking for. He hit him, looks like square in the numbers on the back. So. Yep, blocking the back, that's going to come back.
Good call. Number 4 we have here, I think a no call on a false start. I saw this during the game while I was commentating it. It looked like St. Mary's jumped just a little bit early there on the right side of the line.
It sure looked that way. Easy for us to see that right here on film, but the officials looking at that going, I probably missed it. I'm going to tell the coach it was bang, bang, too close for me to call. Yeah, it probably was a false start.
And then we have another view of that from the end zone view, and you can see there on the right side of the O-line, looks like the tackle and tight end sort of
probably
jumped a little bit.
Probably should have been called.
Number 5, then we have the QB head bob.
Yeah,
and I know
okay.
we've talked about that before, and you can see it right there, just a little bit.
Right.
Where does that cross?
You know, that's
Nothing was
interesting.
called.
That's interesting there, because that could be considered a false start. If the quarterback was doing that from the very beginning, we let him go, and maybe it wasn't enough in the official's eyes to cause enough of a head bob to say, yeah, he simulated the start of a play. That gets real tricky right there.
Right, and we have an end zone view of that as well, but maybe something Gavin Reineke gets warned about maybe at some point.
Possibly something like that. I mean, the linebackers who were looking at him, they stepped up. The down lineman didn't see him doing that. Now, that doesn't make it right. It just means that, maybe you need to be careful about that going forward.
Next play we had was a fumble on the kick return. We weren't sure from the booth whether this was ground caused or not. Okay. It's a little tough to see from the angle so far out, but in my opinion, watching it now with the next day, of course, or the next week, it looked to me like the ball came out early. Fortunately, Sullivan picked it back up right there at the end of the play.
Yeah, it would be nice to see a little bit of a closer look at that, but I think you're right, Zach. It looked like it might have been coming out before his knee was down. Tough spot right there. There's really nobody looking straight in. I mean, the umpire's coming across. He may have a look, but he wasn't sure.
Yeah, and I didn't see any beanbags thrown out or anything like that. So does that mean that they didn't feel that it was an actual fumble?
That just means that if there was definitely a fumble, somebody should have had a bag on it. But, so quick, maybe it's not worth us throwing it out because he recovered it right away. And,
sure.
The ball's not going anywhere. So
sure. The next play we got here was the line judge, just a little bit more pre-stat mechanics. He's got an L shape down there.
He's got the arm pointed out, and that right arm indicates that he's got a balanced formation, which means he's got 3 people on his side of the center that are on the line of scrimmage. Now that hand, that's the right hand, should be down at waist level. That L that he's doing right there means nothing. Okay. That's an old school signal that seems to perpetuate through the ranks. It's not an official approved signal. I don't know where these guys get this stuff from.
Okay, well, it was unique to me. I hadn't seen it a lot, so that's why I was curious.
If you were, and I'm going to shout out to Denny Kraft, if you were Denny Kraft's age, when you first started, you used that signal. Okay. People don't know Denny. Denny was a longtime official here around St. Mary's, and that was a signal they used to use way back when. Okay. That's not an approved signal anymore.
Okay, that's good. Number 8 then, clip 8, we had a late hit called on St. Mary's, and just kind of was curious on your thoughts of it. Quarterback rolls out to the left here. Guys push him, and then there's a little push there after the play.
The little push was enough.
Okay.
That was enough. That didn't need to happen. And 25 years ago, that's Western Buckeye League football probably, but that doesn't apply anymore. That's enough. He was clearly out of bounds, didn't need that push.
Now, the interesting thing about that play, though, was that was a 4th down.
Okay.
And so that was a late hit out of bounds on a 4th down. And so what they did was they gave St. Mary's the ball and then assessed it to the offense and brought the offense back.
Correct.
Is that the correct way?
That would have been a dead ball foul, which means they didn't get the line to the gain during the play. So the dead ball, then we march it back 15, set the chains at that point, 1st and 10 for St. Mary's.
So it's actually kind of fortunate for St. Mary's to get it after the play like that, because they still have a 1st and 10
Correct.
Offensively.
Correct.
Rather than giving up a 1st down.
Yep.
So if that somehow there was to be some sort of personal foul during the play, it would have been a 1st down, and London would have kept the ball.
If there was been a defensive, personal foul there, and we needed, and 15 yards was assessed, we get the 1st down. Yep, and then they would have enforced the dead ball foul after that.
So don't do personal fouls, players. But if you do, make sure it's after the snap, after the play's over,
after you've turned the ball over on downs. Yes.
Right. Next play here then was a stiff arm and then a helmet being knocked off. So this was a very good a very good punt and a fairly good punt return and just an excellent hit by, I believe, Drew Dameyer for St. Mary's.
Good stiff arm there. And the helmet comes off. Now, it's tough to see from that angle whether we had helmet-to-helmet contact. that would not be against a defensive player. There was no targeting involved there. That's just two kids coming together, changing levels to try to make a tackle and try to put a shoulder down to gain yardage. So there's really no foul there. It's unfortunate for the London running back that the helmet came off, because now he's out for a play by rule.
Right.
And there's no way for London to buy him back with a timeout.
Okay, that was my next question too. They had to remove him from the game, so I just wanted the procedure on that. So since it doesn't matter whether it's special teams or offensive plays, you have to come out the next play no matter what.
Well, unless the helmet came off because of a foul.
Okay.
So in other words, if the St. Mary's player would have grabbed the face mask and ripped it off, the helmet off, then he would have been allowed to stay. But there was no foul in this play, so yeah, he's got to go for at least one play. But that thing doesn't apply if there's a halftime or an overtime intermission.
Okay.
In other words, if it happens at the end of the half, you don't have to set out the first play of the second half because of the helmet. It just wipes it away.
That's interesting. Okay, well, we're at the midway here for our clips, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got lots more clips for you. So thank you for joining me, Rules of the Game, with Mark Cisco. We'll be back right after this.
You're watching Rules of the Game on Rider Nation Station, brought to you by Minster Bank, Plus One Professionals, Albert Sporting Goods, American Legion Post 323, Fowler's TV, Eagles Lodge 767, Speckman Automotive, Auglaze Audiology, Rabel's Auto Service, American Manufacturing Solutions, VFW 9289, Auglaze Equipment Rental, Guarneri's Pizzeria, Vogel's Bake Shop, Schaff Auto Sales, Miller Funeral Homes, and Speed's Chiropractic and Wellness Center.
Welcome back to Rules of the Game with Mark Cisco. I'm your host, Zach Farrell. Thank you to all of our sponsors, by the way, for supporting Rider Nation Station. Mark, we're going to jump right back in here with clips. So on this one, we have the left guard for London. This was not called. He didn't knock the player down, but he pushed on the back side. And I was just curious, seeing this on film, should this have been called? Is this technically a block in the back?
Well, if we could run it one more time with
so
our
if you watch the left guard for London there.
Advisor here, why? Yeah, maybe because the St. Mary's defensive guy comes free. It wasn't like there was contact right at the beginning of the play and the player just turned. It looks like the down guard gets away, and then there's a hit in the back. Now, the other thing is, though, the play didn't go for very much.
Right.
So really, was there an advantage gained? That's probably a good no call by the official, because there was no really big advantage gained on that play. So sometimes they tell us, look, no gain or loss or like that, and there's not a safety-related foul, leave it go.
Right. And I kind of think sometimes if he would have pushed him down, it may have been called more.
Possibly, but and maybe they didn't see where the block started. So
right.
If we don't see the whole thing, then we have to assume that it was legal when it started.
And you're not sure if the defender made contact at the line and how it got spun.
You see that initial hit, you just don't know.
Right. Next play we have here, number 11, is the interception and potentially intentional grounding. So This was somewhat of a controversial play. I think the St. Mary's player, now looking at it in slow motion, of course, got a foot in bounds when he caught it and then stepped out of bounds, but they immediately called it out of bounds.
Well, he's looking right at it. I mean, it's tough to tell. We'd really have to slow it down. And when we look at film, the saying goes, look, if you have to look at it 4 or 5, 6 times, then you really don't know what you're looking at, and we got to leave it to the decision of the official. He's got a good look at it. I would trust that he had it right, and that's a bang play right there.
Right. I think it was close enough that I understood that going either way.
Right.
My question, though, a little bit further is, since that was not an interception, could that have been called then as intentional grounding? Because I didn't see a player in the area.
Well, it's very possible. I mean, it looks like that everybody comes over and he just launches it out there. There could be a flag there for intentional grounding, interception or not.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if we intercept the football, we're not going to take the penalty. But there could have been right there, sure.
I almost think that because it was almost an interception, they didn't think about calling the intentional grounding.
Could very well be, and you had a receiver coming across on
right.
that was deep, and by the time everybody looked up, he's going to be closer to there. But
right.
Really, when the ball was thrown and when it was caught, there was nobody in the area.
The next play is the polecat. So.
Oh yes.
Famous St. Mary's play now. Been in the playbook for many years. what you have is the quarterback snapping the ball to one of the running backs.
Okay.
And then he's an eligible receiver, so he runs downfield and is basically uncovered for a little bit. And the running back makes a nice Tanner Howell.
That's a
nice
perfectly
pass
legal
to him.
formation right there. He's on the end of the line. He's not covered up by anybody outside of him, and he's got a legal number, so he is an eligible receiver. Yep.
And the only wrinkle to this one was the star Division I player for London actually was called for roughing the passer.
Roughing the passer on the play. Let's see if we can have an end zone shot of that one.
Yeah, and you kind of feel bad for the London players in the sense that he doesn't realize that that's a quarterback and he can still pass it probably.
Right. I mean, and he come in with the head up, and there was a little bit of helmet to helmet, it looks like. So what should have happened there, and I'm sure they enforced it properly, is the roughing penalty should have been tacked on to the end of where the ball was dead downfield, and first down for St. Mary's.
Right, and I believe it was. Unfortunately, St. Mary's couldn't score on it because they got a holding penalty one or two plays later. But and we probably have that here coming up actually. So the next clip right here was a sweep to the right and holding called on St. Mary's right there towards the middle of the line of scrimmage. You can see a player sort of falling to the ground, and he sort of grabs the player with him. A little bit hard to see from this point of view, but some of the end zones you can kind of see it a little bit easier. So you see a player coming across there and sort of falling down with the guy.
Yeah, is it not? We're kind of far away. If they saw it, then okay, great. There was just enough restriction in their mind to throw the flag.
Next clip we have here, I thought the defensive end was lining up off sides. He does move himself back. So I was just curious, does it make a difference if he's already set down there?
Well, as soon as the center puts his hands on the football, the rule states that nobody is allowed in the neutral zone, which basically is the width of the football from nose to back. So the fact that he lined up there, technically, was that a foul right then? Yes, it was. Now, I'm sure the coaches on that side, and maybe even the officials out there going, get back, get back, get back, and we're trying to help the kids a little bit there. And we're going to probably do what we can. Now, if he'd have stayed there, obviously, if they'd have just snapped it, we'd have shut it down right away and called encroachment on the defense at that point.
Right.
Now, or if he'd have moved in there close to the snap, we just said, nah, you're done.
There were a couple times at center where I thought about just snapping the ball early because I thought the guy was lining up, but you don't get that right. The coach is not going to be happy
the problem with
that
that is maybe your QB is not ready, and now there's a fumble and there's no flag, and now you've given up, and guess who gets to run the next practice?
Yes,
you do, right?
Right.
Yep.
So something to look for, just that kind of alignment, and it's early in the season, so maybe not a total surprise.
Right.
This was a hold called on St. Mary's, number 52. I believe that's it's the left or right guard. I think it's a sweep to the left. Yep, number 52 right there, left guard. I thought it looked like a pretty good.
Oh my, yeah. Let's take a look at that one again. Oh, the flag was dropped right there in the middle of it. Left guard's coming out.
So it's a pretty traditional St. Mary's sweep. Left guard pulls out, kicks his guy out, and right guard comes up through the middle a little bit.
Wow. I'm not down there on the field. Maybe he sees something that I don't. Maybe he's grabbing the jersey as he comes through there and makes contact. It sure looks like a pretty good block to me. I think he was just blocked off of his feet, truthfully. But again, I'm not standing right down there looking at it. That guy's going to be looking at it. But from up here, it looks like it was a good block.
Yeah, it just seemed like, since the guy went down, he had to have been pulled down or something instead of,
I think he was off balance. He just got blocked down on the ground. That's all.
I also thought it was interesting that line judge in that one was sort of looking in the other direction and threw it out to the side. I won't be too critical.
No, he's got ball responsibility and everything else there. So, he saw it and okay, I got the ball coming down here. We know we got something back there, so we got to keep officiating.
Fortunately for St. Mary's, they were able to complete a long pass and were able to actually put it in the end zone that same drive. This next play is actually putting it into the end zone. My question for you on this was, to me, clearly the quarterback was in the end zone. The umpire standing there right over it watching it. Is the umpire not allowed to make a call for a touchdown?
They tell us that the umpire doesn't need to be involved there. It's the wing guys, the guys on the line of scrimmage that are primarily responsible for that. Now, the umpire can help them by saying, look, I see the ball right here. But he doesn't really sometimes know how it gets there.
Sure.
Or whether we had a knee down back in the field of play before the ball got across. What I find interesting there from a player perspective is not so much the umpire, is the running back maybe helping the St. Mary's quarterback into the end zone.
Sure.
Now, you see that a lot. Now, it's okay for the backs to push the pile, but clearly there might have been a hand on the quarterback's numbers or his lower back to help him in the end zone. They tell us to, unless it's really egregious, to stay off that.
Yeah, and I did notice that as well, and this is another view of that, and I just thought it was amazing how long the officials waited to make the call, I guess.
Well, we got to find the football. We don't see the football under that mass of bodies. He's coming in here trying to find the football, and the umpire's probably saying, look, I've got the ball in the end zone, but it's up to you to know how it got there.
Right. Well, and something to watch for, I guess, a little bit more in the future is the fullbacks pushing that and sort of the mechanics on that.
Yeah, you'll see that type of, again, I can guarantee it.
This next play was a kick return. And watching it back, it's clear that the kick returner stepped out of bounds, but no whistles were blown. And so the kick returner kept running,
sure.
Which I'm sure you're coached to. You don't hear the whistle, keep going. You can see right there, he steps out of bounds. No whistles were blown, though, so he gets up and keeps running. And then they blew a whistle a little bit later. It's a little interesting.
So it kind of gives him the extra yardage there.
Right.
So maybe he wasn't quite out of bounds there. I mean, you got a blade of grass in there someplace, maybe possibly, and is he? Looks that way from here.
Right.
He's looking at it. Maybe he's looking at it. Maybe he's looking at the collision down here and doesn't see that step. Tough to say.
Right.
Tough to say. Zach, I think I'd have to agree with you. I think he was out of bounds.
Yeah.
I think he was.
I think you're right. I think he was looking at the collision and maybe the blocking, and then when he looked back, it looked
was
like
too
the guy
late
was
and he
still
was
in.
back in bounds. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Next play we have was an illegal procedure called on London. Wasn't quite sure if they called it a false. Yeah, I think it was a false start there.
Sure. It looks like both ends maybe was just ahead of the snap count, or the center was just a little slow snapping the ball, because those two are just about in sync. Yep, something wasn't quite right there. But that was a good call.
This final clip then is I think they called it a high-low block on St. Mary's.
Chop block?
Chop block. So you had the center jump shoot out there, and you had a tackle pushing his guy sort of behind the center, and they threw a penalty flag there. And so...
Can we see that from the very beginning, Mr. Technical Advisor? So we got the center.
So watch the center shoot out and the guy right there, and they called...
Yeah, was there contact, though, on the center? I don't know.
We've got a good second clip here. It definitely looked like more contact on this clip. But
Okay.
I didn't know, is this part of the new rule, or would this just be a typical high-low?
No, I
rule?
think this is if they called chop block here, it's illegal to be engaged to have a contact above and below the knee on the same guy. So we got the high there, and the center coming out, and it looks like a seal block to me.
Right. He looks like he's putting his legs a little bit back,
Yeah.
but I personally didn't.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I've as a center, I did that many times and never felt like I was engaged in another man's block like that.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
Well, thank you. That's all 19 clips that we had this week. What, as an official at this only second week in the season, are you looking for anything this week or?
No, we take each game one at a time. The heat has played a factor, obviously this early in the season. When you're 90 degrees or something like that, it's hard out there. It's tough. Kids are showing signs with cramping and things of that nature, and officials, have to remember to take water, and we were told to hydrate, day before the game, things of that nature. But other than that, it's football, and we're playing, and that's all we can ask for at this point.
Well, thank you very much for joining
Always
me
a pleasure,
again, Mark.
Zach.
We've got Defiance this week on Rider Nation Station, so be sure to join us, tune into the game Friday night, or come out to Grand Lake Health System Field and watch the Rough Riders hopefully beat the Defiance Bulldogs. We'll be back next week for Week 3 to check out some of the clips from from the game. So for Mark Cisco, I'm Zach Farrell. Thank you again for joining us this week.
You're watching Rules of the Game on Rider Nation Station, brought to you by Minster Bank, Plus One Professionals, Albert Sporting Goods, American Legion Post 323, Bowlers TV, Eagles Lodge 767, Speckman Automotive, Auglaze Audiology, Rabel's Auto Service, American Manufacturing Solutions, VFW 9289, Auglaze Equipment Rental, Guarneri's Pizzeria, Vogel's Bake Shop, Schaff Auto Sales, Miller Funeral Homes, and Speed's Chiropractic and Wellness Center. Thanks for watching another episode of Rider Nation Station. Help us help you by subscribing on YouTube or following us on Facebook.